Today's video is for you, the brand new Formula One fan or someone who's just looking to really dig their claws deep into the world of Formula One and learn a little bit more about the sport. So, because this is for you, I want to tailor this to you as best I can. So first of all, in the description below will be timestamps for every single bit of this video, every content. So if you're interested in just a tiny little bit, say you just want to know about the tyres, then you can go to the description below and have a look that way. Additionally, if you've got any questions that haven't been covered throughout this video, chuck them in the comment section below, and for this video throughout the entire year, so it doesn't matter if you're watching this on the first day it comes out or all the way in December at the end of the season, chuck your comments in and I will do my best to reply. And looking at how last year's beginner's guide went, hopefully this year will give you guys a lot of bits of information that maybe you hadn't thought about or some really key insights into the world of Formula One. So then let's start off with our first topic, which is the season layout. Very, very similar to last season. There's going to be 21 races across 5 continents, 21 different countries, starting in March in Australia and finishing in Abu Dhabi. We do have a summer break halfway through the season. You can just see there after Hungary on the 4th of August, all the way through to Belgium on the 1st of September. So pretty much Formula One just shuts down for August. But officially, well, I suppose actually unofficially, the season actually starts all the way back in February. And in February, we have our winter testing. There you go. F1 wishes you a happy holiday. But we have our winter testing, which is just a few weeks where the teams try out their brand new cars for the seasons, try out their new driver pairings, and also tweak the cars a little bit to get the best performance out of the drivers and the teams. February is also the time of year where the car liveries are revealed. At the end of this video there will be a glossary of all keywords, but the livery, the design of the car, is also announced in February. But the season spanning from March to December, 21 races, well, what are the best races to watch? Because I gather some of you don't want to completely plunge yourself into the world of Formula One straight away. You're just looking to dip your toes in a little bit. So what are the best races on the calendar? Obviously we go all over the world, 5 different continents. But there's some races that every single year really do put on a show, whether it's on the track or whether it's the spectacle of the circuit. So I always recommend the first race of the season in Australia. Not necessarily the best race, however, the first race of the year, brand new teams and drivers, trying to just get used to their brand new machines as well. The coverage that goes with the race is really good for new fans. They try to introduce you to the sport as best as possible. Bahrain and China can occasionally produce some good races. Last year they were really good, but Azerbaijan round 4 for the past 2 years has been the best race of the season. Monaco, everyone knows about Monaco. Even I imagine as someone looking to get into Formula One like yourself, Monaco is definitely one I imagine you will have heard of. Great Britain might not be on the calendar for many more seasons, so that's always one that causes a lot of drama. Hungary, Belgium, Italy, the home of Ferrari, another one. And at the end of the season, the USA, Brazil, and even Abu Dhabi, especially Abu Dhabi being the last race of the season, the championship fight is on. And usually tensions are high at the lower end of the season. But you're seeing a little slideshow of pictures here. It really is crazy that all the different places we go in Formula One. But what about the actual weekend itself? How does that break down? So, a Formula One weekend consists of Friday, Saturday and Sunday. On Friday, we just have 2 practice sessions, which, to be honest, even a die-hard fan like myself, you don't really need to watch. It's more just for the teams to learn about the circuits, tweak their setups, and gives chances to young drivers like you can just see on screen there. That is a rookie who didn't have a seat in Formula One, but he was given a test on a Friday. There are hour-and-a-half sessions, 2 hour-and-a-half sessions, first practice 1 and first practice 2 on a Friday. And then moving on to the Saturday, we have another practice session. Again, not many fans really watch this, it's more for the teams. That's an hour long, Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon is qualifying, which a lot of fans love to watch. Again, some people just miss it, but die-hard fans, this is a real start to the weekend, and qualifying decides the order all the drivers will start the race on Sunday. Qualifying is broken into 3 different sections. They are known as Q1, Q2 and Q3. And what this means is in Q1, 5 drivers are eliminated. And so 15 of the drivers move into Q2. And then the top 10 fastest drivers in Q2 go into the final session, Q3, and battle it out for what is known as pole position, which is first place in qualifying. Race day. How is the race broken down? Well, a lot of people ask me, how long is the race? How many laps is the race? Well, it all varies, because obviously circuit to circuit, they're different length, and obviously lap time varies as well. We might go to a circuit like Monaco, where it only takes a minute to get round the circuit, but then we go to Belgium, where it takes 2 minutes. So obviously it varies. So what we have is known simply as the 300k rule, which means the laps will officially amount up to roughly 300 kilometers. However, this doesn't always quite work out, and sometimes we have big crashes, sometimes we have what are known as red flags, and I'll be discussing red flags, safety cars later on in the video in different sections. But sometimes the race is going to go on far too long. And so what has to happen is we have a 2-hour limit, and so no race will exceed 2 hours. We have had races go on longer, but there has been breaks in between, so it can get a little messy, but this is very, very rare that this happens. Now, the race obviously ends eventually, and obviously someone is crowned the winner, and then we have our podium. And our podium is where the top 3 drivers, first, second and third, go and have this special trophy giving ceremony. Each person in first, second, third receives a trophy. A very crazy looking trophy there from France last year. And they all stand up, have a little cheer, have a little wave. There's some music, there's some champagne, and that is that. Now moving on to something a little bit more fun, the teams and drivers in 2019. Now, I have done a separate video covering every single team and driver, so you can check that out. That'll be in the little I button in the top right hand corner of your screen. However, I just wanted to go over some drivers that I think a lot of new fans would like to know about and maybe should consider supporting. So starting off then with our current world champion, 5-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. Probably the most famous name in Formula 1. You probably even know who he is, despite just getting into Formula 1 or just wanting to know a little bit more. He is one of the best drivers on the grid, and for sure this year he will be winning races. He will be in the championship hunt. The British driver, probably the most popular driver on the grid. His big contender over the last few years has been Ferrari number 1, Sebastian Vettel, 4 times world champion from Germany. Again, he's going to be someone who's winning races this year, but also isn't always too far away from drama. So that's definitely one to keep an eye out for, especially considering his new teammate this year at Ferrari is going to be one of the most interesting and most notable additions to Formula 1 for a very long time. And that is Charles Leclerc. He's moved from Sauber, and he'll be, well, looking to give Vettel a run for his money this year. He has never been on the podium, never won a race. So following his journey this season is going to be incredible to watch. A lot of people think he's going to be in the fight for the championship. And so if you're new to Formula 1, I would highly recommend following Charles Leclerc or this man, Max Verstappen. Both extremely young drivers. Leclerc, who's only going to be in his 2nd year of Formula 1. This is Max Verstappen, who's been in 5 seasons now of Formula 1, and he's won 5 races, is considered one of the top drivers on the grid despite being just 21 years of age. He's got a new teammate this year in Pierre Gasly, another one who's only in his 2nd year of Formula 1, both going to top teams. Kimi Räikkönen, who you may remember was at Ferrari, another really popular driver, one of just 3 world champions on the grid. He's been moving a step down this year to Alfa Romeo, and there's also a few rookies coming in this year. You've got George Russell there on screen, and Lando Norris could be someone to keep an eye out for, 2 young British drivers. And the final driver I quickly want to mention is Robert Kubica, one of the biggest fairy tales in the history of sport. Not just Formula 1, not just motorsport, but sport. A huge incident in 2011 kicked him out of Formula 1. He's making his return despite injuries, life-threatening injuries. It really is an incredible story. So I would recommend, if you want to know more about any of the drivers, checking out my 2019 Drivers and Teams video. So you may be wondering, what do the teams actually want? Why are they in Formula 1? Well, there's two reasons, and mainly they're in it to fight for the championship. There are little sub-reasons, like marketing is a big thing, but the key for most teams is to win both the Drivers' Championship and what is known as the Constructors' Championship. And how both championships work is at the end of each race, points are given out depending on where a driver finishes. For the Drivers' Championships, those points are tallied up for each driver, and at the end of the year, the driver with the most points is crowned the champion. Now, something that is a little interesting with Formula 1 is that just because you have the most wins doesn't necessarily mean you'll be world champion. It's about consistency. And in theory, it's been done before that if you get second in the majority of races, you don't even need to win a race to win the world championship. So consistency is key. The Constructors' Championship is a little bit different. What that is a team's championship, to put it in layman's terms. And basically, the points for both driver within a team, so each team has two drivers, and say for Mercedes, we have Hamilton and Bottas, their points together will be tallied up and put against each of the other teams, and then the team with the most points is the Constructors' Champions. And so in theory, a team may have the driver who wins the World Championship for the drivers, but if their other driver within the team isn't performing, they might not win the Constructors' Championship. So there's two things that the teams are fighting out for, which what makes Formula 1 so interesting is that there's not just one target, and there's a bigger picture rather than just the one race that particular weekend. Points are awarded to the top 10 finishers, with first place receiving 25 points, second place 18, third 15, fourth 12, fifth 10, sixth 8, seventh 6, eighth place you get 4 points, ninth place you get 2 points, and for 10th place you get the single and final point awarded. There's no points for fastest lap in Formula 1, and there's no points during qualifying, so it's all down to the race. If you don't finish, you don't get any points. In Formula 1, there are millions, hundreds of millions almost, of rules and regulations, and so I'm really sorry to say I don't have time to talk about all of them, but here are some key ones that I think you need to know as a new fan. Starting off, when a race starts, there will be what is known as a formation lap. And what a formation lap is all the drivers will do one lap, single file, before the race starts. So what this is, just not to scare you, all the drivers, when the lights go out for the first lap, you will see them not overtaking or anything, and you might think, oh my god, what's happening here? But all that is the formation lap, just to check the car is working and that everything is clear and ready to go. So I just thought I'd quickly mention that one. There's obvious rules and regulations like no crashing, no corner cutting. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. No going backwards. That's generally not allowed. Also, something that new fans find a little bit interesting is no illegal blocking. So what you can't do is, if you're heading towards a corner, you can't suddenly swap direction last second and almost push someone off the road completely. Equally, if you're going down a straight, you can't keep going left, right and blocking someone. You have to make your move. So say you go to the left-hand side of the track, you can't then go back over and cut someone off, sort of thing, like you're on a dual carriageway or something like that. So that's something that new fans sometimes find a little bit strange. There are pit stops in Formula 1, one of the most exciting moments, probably, of the race, unless there's a big crash, which I'm not going to lie, everyone loves a big crash. But something unique for Formula 1 is each driver must do at least one stop. They can do as many as they like, but they must do at least one. But also, something that I'll talk a little bit later about is tyres. And what they must do is run 2 different types of tyres throughout the race. So this year we have the soft, the medium and the hard. So what a driver can't do is start on the soft tyres, do one pit stop, do another set of soft tyres on their car. They need to run at least 2. So Lewis Hamilton has to come in, starts on the soft, has to come in, and if he just wants to do one pit stop, he's got to move on to a different set, which for this case we'll say is the hard. It's a little bit of a tricky one to get your head around at the beginning, but trust me, when you're watching, it makes sense. Now, if there is indeed a big smash on the circuit, obviously a driver will want to come into the pits if they can to change a few things, but also If there's so much damage across the circuit, a safety car will be brought out, which you can see on screen right there in front of Sebastian Vettel. And all this does is all the cars will line up single file behind the safety car and wait till the damage is cleared. The marshals that are picking up all the bits and bobs of debris on the circuit, they're off the circuit, everything's clear. The safety car will then come in, then we'll be racing once again, and all the cars will be bunched up, and it makes it all exciting. We could have what is known as a virtual safety car, where all the cars have to reduce their speed to a limit. Then there's not an actual car on the circuit, but usually you will see a normal safety car out on track if there's been a mega smash. Flags in Formula 1 can be a little bit tricky. We've touched on them a little bit so far, but I want to go over the main flags you will see across a race weekend. Starting with the green flag, very straightforward, suggests that you're free to go. Either an incident has been cleared or it's at the beginning of the race, you can go racing. A yellow flag, sorry for that nasty shade of yellow, but a yellow flag suggests that there's been an incident, a crash maybe. A yellow flag will indicate that you're about to get to that zone and to slow down. A red flag suggests the race has been cancelled or stopped for a period of time because there's such a big crash. The cars will return to the pits and race will resume later on. A checkered flag, everyone I think should know what a checkered flag is, signals the final lap of the race and the race is over. A blue flag is definitely a controversial one, and when a driver is a lap behind, a blue flag will say, get out the way, the quicker car is coming through. Causes a lot of drama, that one, and don't worry, your screen has not turned off. This is a black flag, and that suggests you've been disqualified for being a naughty boy. Something really heavily requested from last year's video was tyres. Something that in Formula 1 we have is a very complex system involving tyres. We have different types of tyres, all produced by Pirelli. In seasons past with Formula 1 we had different brands producing the tyres, but nowadays we just have one brand, which is Pirelli. Over the past few years as well, we've seen this rainbow array of tyres. What you can see on screen there is actually some of the different colours, and you're about to see all the different types of tyres, all with different names, all very confusing. You'll be glad to know this year they've cleaned it up so much. It's so much easier to learn, so don't worry. The main gist of tyres, and the reason you have to do one tyre change, is that they all perform differently. So this year we have the medium, the hard and the soft. The soft is, as the name says, the softest tyre, which means it'll be the quickest, but it'll also run out the quickest, and so you can't use it as long. The medium, obviously the middle of the range, and the hard is the hardest tyre, but it's not as quick. So what it means is you can use the tyre for a huge amount of time, but it's not as quick. So you take the gamble. Do you want to do more on the soft and do a few more pit stops, or do you want to do one on the medium and perhaps take a gamble of less pit stops? And it's that area of strategy which is one of the reasons I love Formula 1. Even though there's 3 tyres on the screen, there's also a green tyre and a blue tyre, and they're for wet weather conditions. So the green tyre is intermediate, which is when it's slightly raining, so deciding when to go onto those tyres is key, and the blue tyres are full-on wet tyres, which you can see actually on this picture right here, and that is when it is completely soaked. But where do you watch Formula 1 in 2019? This is another one that was really heavily requested last year, and so what I can tell you is in the UK. And in the UK, you will be seeing every single race live on Sky Sports, but you will not see every race live on Channel 4. On Channel 4, which is free to air, free view, they will show every single race highlights except Silverstone, which is live. In multiple regions across the world, there is Formula 1 TV, which is a paid subscription service just to Formula 1, very similar to Netflix, but you can watch it live through there. However, we can't do that in the UK, and I believe in the US and Canada, you also can't do that. So what I would recommend is heading over to the Formula 1 website, and you should be able to learn where you can watch the sport on the official site. Also in this section, I quickly just wanted to mention Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula E. What are these things? You might have heard the terms. Now, Formula 1 is the pinnacle of motorsport, the top dog. And underneath Formula 1, you have Formula 2, where it's your up-and-coming drivers that maybe aren't the best, but really want to push into Formula 1. Now, it's not like football. People have asked me this before. You don't get promoted and relegated. It doesn't work like that. A driver can move from Formula 1 to Formula 2, but very rarely. If you do a whole season in Formula 1, you're not allowed back down in Formula 2. And if Hamilton, say, was getting to the end of his career, he would not drop into Formula 2. So it's generally seen as a way of young drivers pushing up to Formula 1, but not really the other way down. Formula E is completely separate. That's electric Formula, and Formula 1 and Formula E generally hate each other. So that's something that you've got to tread carefully. Although, as you can see, my channel name is F1/E, so I like them both, but generally they are not related whatsoever. Now, don't worry, I know I've spoke about rules and regulations, you're not getting deja vu. I just wanted to quickly talk about penalties, something that I have been asked about while I was making this video, funnily enough. Penalties are a very controversial and touchy subject in Formula 1. There's many types of penalties, but the two main ones you will see is a drive-through penalty or a time penalty. And penalties can be dished out for a number of factors. We've seen all sorts of crazy things in the world of Formula 1. A drive-through penalty is the drivers have to go through the pits, don't have to make a pit stop, but drive through the pits, losing a lot of time, and a time penalty would be added on at the end of the race. Those are in-race sort of penalties, but we also see grid penalties, where if a driver makes a mistake or causes an incident in maybe practice or qualifying, where they qualify, a grid penalty will push them down, say, 5 places. But I just wanted to throw this in to this video because it's something a lot of people get confused about. And finally, as all good guides should end, a key terms glossary. This has been many keywords that were brought up to my attention in last year's video, and if none of your queries are covered in this video, I will remind you again, just throw them down in the comments and I'll be right there to answer your questions. But here are some key terms that a lot of new fans struggled to get the grips with early on. So pole position, as mentioned a little bit earlier on, that is the guy who qualifies first and will start the race at the very front position on the grid. The grid is simply just the starting place for all the cars. DRS. DRS, probably I should have covered in rules and regulations, but what this is on the back of the car there's a little flap, and it's when a car is within 1 second within a particular zone, they can open this flap and it almost gives them a Mario Kart speed boost down the straight. So that is something that, again, can be a little bit tricky to get used to early on, but after a while you do get used to it, and it's something, if you've played the Formula 1 game, most likely you'll understand it a little bit better through that means. DRS, drag reduction system, try not to worry about it too much, but it's something that will be brought up at almost every single Formula 1 race. A little phrase that was brought to my attention is box this lap, and what that means is a driver on the team radio will say, or his team manager will say, oh, box this lap Hamilton, box this lap Vettel, box this lap Verstappen, and all that means is come into the pits this lap and do your pit stop. So that's what that means there. We've got livery. I mentioned livery early on, and if you enjoy my stuff and you watch my stuff, you will know I love liveries. And what a livery is, it's just the design of the car. So a Ferrari, it's red. A Red Bull has Red Bull stickers all over it and sponsors. So that's all the livery refers to, is the design. Not necessarily the parts on the car, but actually the marketing design, the paintwork, the paint job. Chicane, hairpin. They are just corner names. You will hear all sorts of crazy words in Formula 1. Rasgas, Parabolica, Pouon. All of them are just corner names. And you will hear commentators just drop corner names all the time. And you think, what on earth is he on about? So if a word is really strange, sounds a bit foreign, blame it on the fact that it's a corner. And usually 9 times out of 10, that's probably what it is. Marbles, runoff area. What marbles are is the tyres on a car. They grain, they wear down. As I mentioned a little bit earlier in the tyres section, if you're running the soft tyres, they run out quicker. And all that means is the actual rubber of the tyres is falling off. And they obviously fall off onto the circuit. And what happens is there's obviously a quickest line for the drivers to follow, so the rubber goes onto the other half of the circuit, say. And what happens is the marbles build and build and build, so at the end of the race you almost get, it's almost a gravel trap at some particular races where there's just marbles, bits of tyre all over the place. So marbles is just an area where all the bits of tyres have fallen off and sort of piled up together. You don't see it crazy at most races, but some races it is very severe. And finally, the one I wanted to finally talk about is a flat spot. When you hear this term, you will almost see it instantaneously. It's where a driver will lock up their tyres. So this is when they brake too harshly. Lock up as well, actually, I might as well explain. They brake too harshly, their tyres just stop rotating and just lock. The car then skids across the floor and creates an actual flat spot on the tyre. So it's not round anymore, it's been flat where it's chipped away at the bottom of the tyre. So that's your lot then for your 2019 F1 Beginners Guide. It's been an interesting one, and hopefully you've learned a fair bit about Formula 1, but as I will keep saying, if you didn't learn anything, chuck it in the comments below, because all year long I will be posting, responding, because at the end of the day I love it when new people get into Formula 1. So thank you for listening, thank you for giving Formula 1 a chance, and hopefully I'll be seeing you for the rest of the entire Formula 1 season. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.